Microsoft might have just avoided this Xbox disaster. What is up, y'all, and welcome to Xbox Ready, my YouTube channel that is all about Xbox. Y'all know how it goes. I get on here multiple times a week. I stay uploading videos 3, sometimes 2, sometimes 4 times a week, talking about the latest Xbox news, rumors, games, accessories, pretty much anything I want to talk about as long as it's about Xbox in some way. Y'all remember 2020, the year the Xbox Series X and S launched alongside the PlayStation 5. Great times. I'm sorry, I feel kind of crazy feeling nostalgic about the year 2020 of all years. A year where the majority of the time I couldn't see my family, I was in lockdown, but I did get to play a lot of video games and binge Tiger King.
I'm never gonna financially recover from this.
And there was also a ton of excitement about the Xbox Series consoles. The Series X and the Series S represented a new hope for Microsoft. Through the combined powers of these two consoles, they could bounce back from the forgettable generation that was the Xbox One. They could reestablish themselves in the console wars and forge ahead into an exciting future for Xbox and gaming. And out the gate, even though there were a couple of stumbles on Xbox's part, like delaying Halo Infinite, in the early days of Series consoles versus the PlayStation 5s, Xbox was doing pretty well. Sure, they were being outsold, but it was a far cry from what we were seeing the generation before, where PlayStation 4s outnumbered Xbox Ones at a 2-to-1 ratio. The Series S especially did a lot of heavy lifting for Microsoft in those early days when no one could buy a console anywhere, regardless of what platform it was. But once those console shortages were over, Sony just put the pedal to the metal with the PlayStation 5 sales, and they did not let up. Combine that with a disappointing release for Starfield, the power of Halo Infinite waning, and some of Xbox's best exclusives still a year or two off, we started to see yet another repeat of PlayStation outselling Xbox 2-to-1. You look at how many Xbox Ones were selling at this point in their life cycle compared to these Gen 9 Xboxes, and Xbox Series X and S, they're falling well short. We used to look back on the Xbox One generation as, oh, it was an embarrassment, it was a total failure. I'm sure Xbox would love to see the numbers that they were getting back in the One generation right now for the Series X and S. And it's a shame because these consoles are great. Game Pass is awesome. And those first-party games that we were waiting so long for, they turned out to be a really solid crop of games with more on the way. But of course, what's done is done. This is how things played out. We can't look back anymore. We can only look ahead. Except when we look ahead, there's some scary things. Specifically, I'm afraid of price increases for games, for consoles, for everything in my life, which has been a reality for Xbox fans as of late. The Xbox Series X and S, they're more expensive now than they were at launch for some reason, and it's a real possibility that the next Xbox consoles are going to be even more expensive. We've had 2 price increases to hardware with a potential third on the way, and that is the scenario that everyone is dreading. This third wave of price increases, we're all just going to have to deal with, not just as Xbox fans, but fans of gaming and tech in general. This is going to affect every platform holder, anyone who makes tech products like laptops. We're just going to have to pay more for those because some other companies have decided it's a great idea to gobble up all the VRAM to support their AI servers. Xbox Series X and S sales are already down in a major way. They go down every single year. Shelves are barren at our local Targets. But despite all of that, Microsoft may have found a way to prevent that doomsday scenario, a third wave, a third price increase from happening. Unfortunately, no one seems to have the answer about what people are going to do about the VRAM stuff, especially because Microsoft is buying a lot of that VRAM to support their own AI adventures. Thanks again, Microsoft. But they can do something about the other cause of price increases: tariffs. Now, y'all know me, I don't usually like to venture into the world of politics because I am just a YouTuber who has a video game channel, not even like a gaming channel, an Xbox news channel that is ultra specific and niche. I am not a political expert, I am not an economics expert. Seriously, when else have we seen console prices go up? Like, damn, I lived through a whole recession in the US, and back in 2008, that wasn't even happening. Okay, so no one could say for sure if tariffs are responsible for the price increases for Xbox. Microsoft just happens to make a lot of their Xbox hardware in factories in China, and the US just happens to have its most aggressive and out of control tariffs on products coming out of China. Sure, I'm sure there's no correlation there. So Microsoft, like the good old American company they are, they're gonna go and dive into the jungles of Vietnam. Reuters posted this article where they're referencing regulatory documents, and they found that this subsidiary of Foxconn is seeking permission to expand production in Vietnam to produce up to 4.8 million Xbox gaming devices annually. Now, many of these devices will be consoles, but not all. It'll also include controllers, headsets, which have also been hit with price increases. And it's not just Xbox, no, other gaming consoles are shifting production to Vietnam as well, and what many believe as a tactic to brace for these VRAM shortages. So while yeah, the increased price of VRAM and even storage at this point might trickle down to us as consumers, especially on these next-gen consoles, Microsoft shifting gaming production to Vietnam over China will help them mitigate the issue that they have with tariffs. Hopefully. Now, personally, I don't know how much this is going to help with the current issues that we have with the Series X and S. Like, let's be real. People are buying PlayStation 5s over Xboxes. If you're at a retailer and you see, especially over Black Friday, you saw that a PlayStation was freaking $350 and then an Xbox was $600, yeah, you're probably going to buy the PlayStation 5. Now that the Series X and S, they're $400, $600 respectively, I don't know if there's any bouncing back from that. Like, the potential for new customers is just not there anymore. You had a shot with the Series S at $300, and when Game Pass was $20, hey, you buy this $300 console, unlock a bunch of games for $20 a month. To me, that's appealing for a new customer. But $400, $600 especially, that is, if they weren't buying at $300 and $500, they're not going to be buying at $400 and $600. So how does Microsoft allocate this new production that they got going on? What do they do with these nearly 5 million gaming devices? Do you put out a bunch of Series X and S consoles to keep the price stable, this new price that they got going on? Or do you just say, screw it, everyone who bought an Xbox console, like Ray, they already got one. We're not gonna get a ton of new customers. Should we shift production into our controllers, our headsets, our next-gen Xboxes, and possibly stuff for our cloud gaming servers? At what point does Xbox just move on? This doesn't mean, no, they should stop making gaming hardware. I think this means the opposite, like they're willing to go to these lengths to move their factories into another country in order to keep making that hardware, put themselves in a position to do so. But what about these consoles, the Series X and S? Is it worth it to keep making them, distributing them, paying the tariffs on them? Honestly, at this point, they should just be willing to take a loss on it again, sell all existing stock. If the next Xboxes are rumored to come out as soon as 2026, maybe they should just cut the cord, continue to support it, obviously, with their games, but maybe wind down production. I don't know, I would hate to see that because I love these consoles. I have a lot of great memories. I'm on the theme of nostalgia this video, bear with me, with my Series X and S, and I know it sounds crazy to be nostalgic for devices that haven't even really been around that long in the grand scheme of things, but all things come to an end eventually. The 360 era, the Xbox One era. I think it's just a matter of when Xbox seriously wants to start the next gen, because already I feel like they've done all they can with the Series X and S. They've taken it as far as it can go. Why not charge full steam ahead with Project Magnus and these console PC hybrids? There were so many good moments this generation. It's been a lot of crazy moments, but also a lot of good moments. I remember very fondly back in 2021 for the 20th anniversary when they shadow dropped the multiplayer portion of Halo Infinite. That was awesome. Shadow dropping Hi-Fi Rush, awesome. Closing Tango Gameworks, not so awesome. Starfield, I don't know, pretty good. Not a game for me, but pretty good, I guess. Not that level of hype I wanted to see. But Doom: The Dark Ages, Indiana Jones, Outer Worlds 2, Grounded 2, all great games, all great moments. And also, I'm gonna put that legendary run that we had as Game Pass subscribers from like June 2024 when Black Ops 6 was dropped all the way up until we got that second price increase. I remember being blown away at the possibility, the value of Game Pass, especially in the month of of April going into May. In April, I was so excited for Oblivion Remaster, but that was also the same month that they added Expedition 33, which was, and looking back on it, was a massive win for Xbox and Game Pass subscribers. It took me a while to come around to this game because I was working through other stuff, but when I finally did, it's one of those, I can see why, a lot of people out there don't like it. It ended up being a little bit smaller in scope than I anticipated. I felt like I burned through the game really quick and I wasn't prepared for it to end. But what they did with turn-based combat, implementing a parry and dodge system real time, what they did with the music and the voice acting, it's something that's gonna stick with me for forever. Talking through it right now, I can hear Renoir's first boss theme. It's fucking sick. And the ending that I chose will haunt my memory forever. I regret it so hard. And a lot of people apparently feel the same way that I do because, well, it's nominated for Game of the Year, currently the frontrunner. It's getting glazed constantly. So it's no surprise when I came across this article on the Xbox Wire saying that Expedition 33 currently has the crown for biggest third-party launch onto Game Pass ever. The creative director of Sandfall Interactive even went out of their way to say that support from Xbox was instrumental in helping the game make as big of a splash as it has. Because remember, Xbox, before everyone was caught up in Expedition 33 fever, they featured the game in their developer direct, and everyone was like, what the hell? This is a third-party game. We should see first-party stuff. And that game ended up becoming one of the biggest hits of 2025. And get this, we're always used to developers and studios bashing Game Pass. Sandfall Interactive, who just put out this banger, says that Xbox Game Pass allowed them to reach a much wider audience. And honestly, that was a smart move on their part because not a lot of people at first glance are interested in turn-based RPGs. If you're a Game Pass subscriber, remember this was pre-price increase. Even if you aren't into turn-based combat, you can give Expedition 33 a chance. And because it's such a good game, it has a solid chance of winning you over and pulling you in. A chance that you wouldn't have taken if you had to buy the game for full price. Expedition 33 represents Game Pass at its best, but unfortunately for a lot of people, $30 a month just way too high. The bangers are still there, that's for sure. They're still adding good games and are going to in the future, but it's a lot cool getting those bangers at $20 a month, games like Oblivion Remaster, Expedition 33 in the month of April, and then go straight into May where we got Doom the Dark Ages, Metaphor Ari, and Fantasio. A lot cooler getting all that stuff for $20 instead of $30 a month. Hopefully Xbox can continue offering that and move towards this future where maybe we switch on over to PC Game Pass pricing instead of Game Pass Ultimate pricing. I just want them to get their mojo back. I'm interested to see if this has any effect whatsoever on third-party publishers and studios' decision to put their game on Game Pass in the future. There's been a lot of noise in the news cycle about Rockstar saying, oh, there's no way I'd put Grand Theft Auto 6 onto Game Pass. That'd be stupid. And of course, some other big games throughout the year skipped over Game Pass entirely. Games like Kingdom Come Deliverance, pretty much every other Game of the Year nomination that was not exclusive to a specific platform said, no thanks to Game Pass, we're going to do it our own way, besides Expedition 33. There's also been a lot of back and forth on whether or not Game Pass is good for the industry or good for the studios and their games. For every studio like Sandfall Interactive saying Game Pass is great because it allowed us to make a bigger splash and expose our game to a wider audience, there are about two more complaining about, oh, Game Pass, it tanked our sales, it didn't work out in the way that we hoped it would, the pay structure sucks. Is there going to be another third-party game that's on the same level as Expedition 33 being added to Game Pass in 2026? Hopefully many more. But they kind of got to figure it out because Xbox did commit to putting 75 day one editions onto Game Pass to help justify that price increase. And we know they're not all going to be first party. If they can't secure those high caliber third-party games to Game Pass like they have been doing in the past, then the discussion is going to start all over again. Oh, Game Pass is not worth it. Game Pass sucks. What is Xbox doing? Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I got to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready. If you made it this far into the video, consider subscribing. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.